It was a glorious day on the island of Sodor. All of the engines wanted to get their work done quickly, as some very important visitors were coming to take a tour around town, specifically to have the engine's pictures taken on television. They were, of course, the ones most excited. One day, Edward was at Tidmouth's sheds where he lived with the other engines. They were all debating as to who the Fat Controller was going to send who to pick up the special VIP. You know, I sure would love to take the Television Express, just for one day. Unfortunately, I keep getting reminded of the consequences from the three of you claiming how old and disheveled I am.
You got that right, little Edward. I suppose what this television idol needs is a proud and strong engine with a regal appearance and can pull the Wild Nor'Wester in style.
I hate to break the news to you, Gordon, but that regal appearance of yours would be nothing compared to an engine with some shiny paintwork. I hear the ladies dig the color red.
Why, that's nothing, really. With the help of some Welsh coal, I can improve my strength to pull a heavy train just as much as any other engine on the island. As the debating continued, poor Edward felt sorry for himself when the Fat Controller arrived.
Good morning, everybody. Now, as some of you may know, long-time BBC News reporter Mindy Simpson is on her way to Sodor to climb aboard the Television Express. I shall require only one engine to show her the sights of the island. Now, which one to choose? Well, what about Edward?
Wait, you really mean it? Thank you, sir. That will be a nice change.
That's a good engine. Off you go now, Edward.
So the fireman built up his fire, made lots of steam, and Edward chuffed happily away. The other engines were very cross for being left behind. When Edward arrived at Knapford Station, he was so excited to see Mindy Simpson, but she wasn't there yet. At last, he came across what looked like a smartly dressed lady carrying a motion picture camera. "Excuse me, madam, but are you Mindy Simpson?"
Well, yes. Yes, I am.
The Mindy Simpson?
Yes, sirree. And I assume that you must be Edward.
The one and only. Most of the other engines say that I'm old and disheveled, but that doesn't stop me from being really useful. If anything, the most known job that I've ever done was helping Gordon up the hill whenever he's stuck.
How incredibly interesting. Well, I have come here to record a tour around the island of Sodor. Care to show me the sights?
Of course, madam. All aboard. I'll be back in a jiffy. So Edward chuffed out of the way as Percy was getting his coaches ready for action. Afternoon, Edward. Afternoon, Thomas.
Now our next stop is brought to you by a branch line featuring everyone's favorite #1 engine, particularly an LB and SCR Billington E2 class with extended side tanks named Thomas.
Yep, that's me. Don't wear it out. Oops, that's the guard's whistle. Best be off. Cheerio.
The Fat Controller was enjoying his tea and iced bun when the telephone rang. Hello. What's that you say? Edward's back at Knapford already? Well, all right. I'll attend to the matter immediately. Goodbye. At the station, the Fat Controller arrived on the scene to see what was the matter.
Well, sir, it turns out that the pictures of all the engines on Sodor were fully developed. And let me tell you something. The boys back at the BBC network will never believe this, especially when the program is about to premiere.
The Fat Controller smiled.
Well done, Edward. You are a really useful engine.
That night at Tidmouth's sheds, Edward was alone with Henry, Gordon, and James. They were, of course, watching the premiere of the broadcast that was filmed earlier.
I'm here live on the scene at Knapford Station for the BBC premiere tour of the Island of Sodor, featuring Thomas the Tank Engine and all of his friends, and also to honor the 40th anniversary of the television show. So when you put that out of the way, let the tour of the island begin.
Oh, I think this is about to be the best part of the broadcast. Wouldn't you say so? But Edward wasn't hearing what the other engines thought. They were just about to drift off to sleep when suddenly something caught their attention coming from the television. There, broadcasting on the BBC network, were Henry, Gordon, and James right on camera.
I bust my boiler. I don't believe it.
That looks like us.
Great, now I have guilt.
1 hour later, the broadcast was coming to an end as the big engines stared in awe.
Well, there you have it, folks. The island of Sodor is a peaceful environment where all of the engines are treated amazingly thanks to the helping of the one and only Sir Charles Popham Hatt. Thanks for watching the broadcast, and tonight on BBC One, a double helping of Woody Woodpecker and friends. Thank you.
After tonight's viewing experience, for the rest of the night, Gordon, James, and Henry remained respectfully silent.
The Sanderson witches are flying into town. We're home. They're here to have some fun and practice a little witchcraft. If they could only get it right.
She did it.
Hocus Pocus from Walt Disney Home Video, rated PG.
The summer season has just left the island of Sodor, and the engines were glad to return to their normal duties. However, there were many more passengers than usual, and many controllers were scrambling for new and exciting vehicles to keep their networks afloat. One day, Duke and Smudger were idling at the station, awaiting orders from the Thing Controller, Mr. Percival. Now, for those who don't know, Smudger is a show-off. If you were to ask why, allow me to give you the demonstration. Every chance he makes, he can prove to the other engines how useful he can be, which results in him being careless, riding roughly, and often coming off the rails. His favorite engine to show off was Duke, who by many was regarded as the oldest and yet wisest of the narrow-gauge engines. The two engines waited and waited until they heard an unfamiliar revving. It was a shiny old-fashioned road vehicle who was donning a bright shade of yellow paint, a white roof top, and was wearing a confidential smile. Out of all road vehicles such as Terrence, Birdie, Bulgy, Butch, and so forth, The two engines had never seen such an oddball of a road vehicle like this one before.
What's this here? Another one of them sports vehicles carrying Hollywood autograph hounds? Give me a break.
Actually, this here is our very first railway taxi, smiled Mr. Percival. In case another engine is busy or is waiting at another station, we can use this new taxi to deliver your passengers just like clockwork.
He's got that right. Usefulness on the road is my kind of specialty. I'm Revkey. Well, it's nice to meet you, little guy. I'm Duke.
And over here we have Smudger. He can be kind of a backstabber, or better yet, a show-off, if anything.
I heard that, Dookie.
All right, simmer down, you two. Let's get ready for your passenger trains today. There's so much to do in so little time. Come on, Revkey.
You bet, sir. What a nice taxi. Isn't it exciting, Smudger? Now many more passengers can go from station to station in both train and taxi at the same time. Yeah, right. Taking passengers is our job. Well, we just gotta keep moving forward, that's all. If not, what might the railway come to? Uh-huh. Yeah. What if that taxi is the perfect example of our replacement, permanently? What may happen to all of us then? Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to deliver my passengers today. Well, all right, but be careful, Smudger. You don't want to puff roughly and come off the rails, do you? Listen, Dookie, who worries about a few accidents? I certainly don't. Goodbye. Never listens to me.
So Smudger went to fetch his coaches. They didn't like the sight of him at all.
Not so hard, me lad.
Smudger, what do you think you're doing? Be careful with those coaches, me lad. The workmen had those repainted last week.
Yeah? Well, they'll be repainting them when I'm proven to be really useful.
Oy vey, some engines today.
Later that day, he pulled up to the station where James was waiting for him.
Why, hello there. What's your name?
James. Your name?
Smudger. Say, do you like pulling passengers?
Precisely. I'd be sure to give Gordon a run for his money anyhow. At least it's much better than pulling dirty trucks from dirty sidings.
Yeah, well, you better enjoy it while you still can, buddy. Unless you want to be replaced by an old-fashioned taxi.
James was speechless.
Smudger was chuffing carefully through the countryside. Suddenly, without warning, something unusual took Smudger's attention, and it was...
Oh, well, there's Revkey. But there's no way he's going to replace all of us steam engines now. Perhaps a little rail/road race wouldn't hurt anybody.
I wouldn't increase the speed if I were you, Smudger, said his driver. Besides, you heard what Duke said, right? But Smudger wasn't listening. This was the chance that he had been waiting for.
Oh, hi there, Smudger. How are you today?
But Smudger just laughed. Then there was trouble. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but Smudger was feeling rather silly.
Later that day, Revkey heard that Smudger was in trouble, so he kindly delivered his own passengers to help him back on the rails again, whilst another engine took his train to make up for lost time.
Well, Smudger, I warned you to be careful, but you didn't take much notice, did you?
Yeah, right.
He snarled.
Besides, I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that meddling taxi who's planning to take our passengers and leaving us in the dust.
Say what? What makes you think I want to replace steam engines on Sodor? Why, I wouldn't mind being really useful and keeping the railway network afloat. It's in my blood. All right, fellas. Easy. Easy.
So, with the best strength possible, the workmen managed to lift Smudger back on the rails again.
Well, it looks like my work here is done. Goodbye, fellas.
Instead of saying thank you, Smudger could only make an angry sneer at Revkey. By the time he had crawled back to the sheds, the thin controller, Mr. Percival, wasn't very happy. "You are a very naughty engine, Smudger," he said. "One of these days, we're going to have to send you over to the Sodor Steamworks to have your engine looked at, so this way you won't come off the rails too easily. I suppose that'll teach you to learn some rock and roll tricks from Duncan." The next morning, it wasn't made very clear if Smudger had learned his lesson, for some children walked up and was granted permission by their families to come and have a look at the engines. One called out,
Hey, look, everybody. Here's Smudger. He tried to race a taxi yesterday, but the taxi nearly beat him.
and the children all laughed and smiled till they nearly had the case of the hiccups. Poor Smudger never believed in taxis now.
Imagine a world beneath the sea with an enchanted McDonald's of pure fantasy, where the Little Mermaid's friend Sebastian and Flounder the fish come to life to grant your holiday wish.
Buy a $5 book of McDonald's gift certificates and get a free plush ornament, either Flounder
That's me.
or Sebastian.
I always knew I'd be famous.
From the all-new Disney animated feature, The Little Mermaid, now in theaters everywhere.
So come to McDonald's, hurry along, like a true fantasy. It's here then, score. Your holiday place, McDonald's.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
How much for this Revlon shampoo?
Everything in the store is $1.
Wow.
Believe it. Everything's $1 at Dollar Tree.
Are you new?
No.
How much are these Panasonic batteries?
$1.
Oh, that boggles my mind.
How much is this? $1. Seriously. Seriously. Bottom line. Bottom line, it's $1.
How much for this Play-Doh? Excuse, sir. Excuse me.
How much is this?
How much is it?
At Dollar Tree, there's no need to ask how much.
Everything in the store is $1. Believe it.
Sumo bumper bumpers! Sumo bumper bumpers! Bop, bop, bop! Sumo bumper bumpers! Bop, bop, bop! More fun than bumper cars! Bump, 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 bang, bang! Sumo bumper bumpers! Bop, bop, bop! Sumo bumper bumpers! Bop, bop, bop! Bumping, laughing, bopping, fun! Bang, bang, bop, bop, boom, boom! Sumo bumper bumpers! Bop, bop, bop! New Sumo bumper bumpers! More fun than bump cars by Big Time Toys.
Now Toby is a steam tram, incorporated with cow catchers, a body made of wood, and doesn't look like an ordinary steam engine at all. He used to take freight trucks from farms and villages to the main line, and is cheerful to everyone he meets. He also has a coach called Henrietta, who has seen better days, remembering that she used to be full of passengers and only 7 trucks would rattle along behind her. To this day, the most known job that Toby works for is working at the Farquhar Quarry Company with Mavis, shunting trucks in their places. Outside of working with Thomas and Percy, Toby enjoys working at the quarry with Mavis and wouldn't want to work with anyone else.
However, one day Mavis was ill. Her old generator had worn out and was in need of a fresh new one. The Fat Controller spoke kindly to Mavis.
I'm afraid that it's going to take some time for this quarry to recover during your absence, Mavis. But hopefully a temporary diesel will take your place until you come back from the diesel works. I guarantee it. The next day, Toby arrived back at the quarry and was looking forward to collecting more trucks full of stone when he met an undelightful surprise. And he goes by the name of Devious Diesel.
Oh, it's you. You got that right, mate. What are you doing here?
I think I can explain that. Unless Mavis comes back from the diesel works with a new generator, Devious Diesel will be the substitute for the day. Now, Toby, I want you to show him the ropes on how to handle quarry trucks. He's got a lot to learn, I assure you. And with that, the Fat Controller left, leaving the two engines alone.
You know, I will give you credit, Toby. You are worthy... name again?
That's Sir Topham to you, mister.
Diesel seethed with hurt.
Anyways, your worthy Sir Topham thinks I need to learn about quarry trucks, but he is clearly mistaken. For you see, there's no need for us diesels to learn about quarry trucks, because you see, we are revolutionary.
At last, Toby was losing patience but responded calmly.
Now look, I just want to make my statements very loud and clear because I want to instruct you on what's right and what's wrong through thick and thin. For example, you see those quarry trucks over there? That's right, they shall be where you want them, when you want them. But take my advice, please. Try not to biff and bash them harshly. They wouldn't like that very much.
Yeah, right. And Diesel oiled away, ready for work, leaving a rather frustrated Toby behind. He was missing Mavis already. However, Diesel, on the other hand, as if to make himself sound very clear, bumped some trucks hard. "Oh!" squealed the trucks. They didn't like Diesel's short temper at all. Later that day, the trucks held an indignation meeting.
My dear friends, it appears that this substitute shunter has taken advantage of us, shunting us too hard and using such profanatorial language. Why, he won't be able to get away with it this easily. The next time he gives us a bump or pulls us, we'll have to pay him back. Comrades, you know what to do?
And the trucks all cheered in agreement after they heard said plan.
Hey, what's up, Toby? You don't seem very happy today.
Oh, hello there, Percy. I'm just a little upset because Mavis is at the works getting a new generator, and while that's going on, Devious Diesel was assigned to help work at the quarry for the day, although I don't think he seems to be the engine appropriate enough to be claimed as a co-worker.
Who knows? Maybe he might change for the better.
Are you ready? Reverse!
The Fat Controller was enjoying his tea and iced bun when the telephone rang.
Hello. What's that you say? The quarry's in a mess? I'll be there right away.
Later that day, Harvey and Stephanie had arrived to help clean up the mess.
Just a few more layers of china clay, and the quarry will be back in business.
Couldn't have said it better myself, mate.
By the time he had arrived, the Fat Controller spoke severely to Diesel.
It seems to me that Toby and the quarry manager explained everything to me. Things worked much better before your arrival, Diesel. I'm afraid that your shunting days will just have to wait until I can trust you again. Now, Toby, considering that you've done such a fine job, guess who's made a comeback?
Oh, Mavis, it is lovely to have you back. Say, how's that new generator?
Seems to be purring nicely and raring to go.
In that case, we've got some quarry trucks to collect.
And so, the two friends went back to work while Diesel oiled shamefully away.